You'll be happy. Me, I want what's coming to me.
Oh, well, what's coming to you, Tony?
The world, Chico. And everything in it.
Microsoft owns Bethesda. Microsoft and Xbox own Bethesda. Microsoft bought Bethesda, or should I say Zenimax, which is Bethesda's parent company, for $7.5 billion. $7.5 billion. Wow. This is undoubtedly the biggest gaming news that's hit the internet possibly ever. This is insane. And this came virtually out of nowhere. It's been a rough year with 2020 and the pandemic and all the back and forth between the leading console competitors, Sony and Xbox. I mean, if you discount Nintendo, they've been at each other's throats all year trying to one-up each other. I think it's safe to say that Sony won the first two rounds. Microsoft, up until now, have screwed the pooch on their marketing. They have so much to work with. Whoever's in charge of their marketing team needs to be fired ASAP. I've heard mixed things about the Sony release, but its majority of which has been positive, whereas Microsoft's initial showcase was very underwhelming and falsely advertised. And then we had the second, they said, wait till July, we'll show you something good then. We got a demo of Halo Infinite, and got a few more exclusive title announcements, and we had the announcement of Fable, thankfully, which was a welcome surprise and a clear indicator that Microsoft is trying to restore its old glory, go back to the franchises that made it great in the first place, and that made the Xbox the place to be for gaming. Though Halo Infinite's demo was very much underwhelming, plagued with numerous technical issues and somewhat of a mixed response, we were still yet to be blown away. I said in my Halo Infinite video, Microsoft, 343, what are you doing? Blow us away, we're waiting. The Xbox Series X is coming out in 2 months. What are you waiting for? Blow us away. And that's what I said. Well, consider me blown away because I was speechless. I couldn't concentrate. Oh my god, the juicy possibilities now with having all of Bethesda's IPs, Fallout, the yet to be revealed Starfield, which I think was Bethesda's answer to Obsidian's Outer Worlds, a sci-fi RPG similar to that of its Elder Scrolls series, which, by the way, Elder Scrolls 6 and all following installments, all coming to Microsoft, Dishonored, The Evil Within, and Halo's older and more grizzled brother, Doom. Doom is coming to Microsoft exclusively. All latter Doom releases. Doom Eternal and, all that, everything, the modern Doom games are going to be available as is for all the platforms, true. But Doom, whatever the hell comes after Doom Eternal, that's going to be available as a Microsoft exclusive. This is insane. Microsoft went from almost having no exclusives, no mainstream notable exclusives, to having the motherload of exclusives. I'm still blown away. I'm freaking out. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a bit biased. I've been playing Xbox for a long time. I've never really been much of a PS4 guy or a PS3 guy. I played a bit of PS2. And I love those memories and those are timeless. And I adore Nintendo, but Nintendo is a completely different type of gaming for me. I play Xbox for the Xbox games. I play Nintendo for the Nintendo games. I think everybody does. I don't really see Nintendo as a competitor to Microsoft or Sony. Nintendo has its exclusives, and it has its own specific genre of games. You go to Nintendo to play a Mario game. You go there to play a Super Smash Bros., Zelda, Samus, you name it. Whereas Xbox and PlayStation, you go for the more serious RPGs, shooters, action-adventure games, you name it. Like I said, two completely different demographics, not necessarily competing with each other. And not only that, but Microsoft in recent years has been on very good terms with Nintendo and has been kind enough to share some of its exclusives. Bethesda as well. Skyrim was ported to Switch. Hell, Microsoft's Metroidvania baby, Ori and the Blind Forest, and its sequel have been ported to Switch. So what this means is that Xbox and PC, because I'm a PC player as well, Xbox and PC will be the exclusive market for Microsoft's titles, its existing titles, and Undead Labs, 343, The Coalition, Playground Games, Obsidian, we'll get back to them in a sec, and id Software, Arcane, and the rest of Bethesda's titles. Fallout, Elder Scrolls. I've been through it all. That's all coming to Microsoft and PC exclusively with some later ports to Nintendo down the line. The one demographic of gamers that isn't going to get to touch any of that, presumably, Sony. Sony, if I was Sony and the head of their team, they were probably patting themselves on the back a week ago. After seeing this, they are probably sweating bullets because they had the upper hand. I'm not really much for the console wars, don't get me wrong. It is entertaining to watch, I'll admit. Like, I've just never really been very interested in PlayStation. I've been keen to get God of War and maybe Spider-Man, but that's about it. And I'll get back to Spider-Man in a second. But, it was Nintendo 64 for me, and then pretty much every single Xbox up until the Xbox One, and for the longest time. And all of you can agree with me. There isn't really much on Xbox to sort of tide us over as Microsoft consumers. That's why, more and more people have been coming to PC in recent years, because there's virtually, aside from exclusives, which are essentially out the window now because Microsoft has done a complete 180 on its business practices. They went from complete dick mode from the Don Matrick era in 2013 to essentially, I want to plaque Microsoft on my wall with how consumer-friendly they're being. I'm still waiting. Every time I see more news of Microsoft, it's just good news, essentially. I'm just thinking to myself, okay, Microsoft, you're delaying Halo Infinite so it can get more development time done. Okay, that's good news. Thank you. Microsoft, you're going to get to play every single one of your titles from Xbox One on Xbox Series X free of charge. Thank you, Microsoft, yes. Halo Infinite's multiplayer will be entirely for free. Thank you, Microsoft, yes. And just all of these excellent consumer practices, including the fantastic Xbox Game Pass available on Xbox and PC, meaning every single Microsoft exclusive is essentially free to play at launch for everyone who has Xbox Game Pass. Again, thank you, Microsoft. I'm still waiting for the catch. How are you going to screw me in the ass? Because I'm waiting for that, because you've done that, and you've done so for the past 7 years. Well, I'd say Microsoft's turnaround started in 2018, but I'm still waiting for the catch. And now, Microsoft buys Bethesda and all of their titles and says, hey, you know how you had virtually no exclusives to brag about now to your friends for owning an Xbox or being our consumers or being on Game Pass? Yeah, you had plenty of games to play, but it's nothing that the Sony crowd couldn't play. Almost everything we had to offer you was multi-platform. They said, yeah, well, you know what? We bagged Bethesda, and which is essentially like 10 to 20% of the mainstream gaming market. And now you have all these exclusives to play on our Series X platform. You have all these exclusives to play on PC. All of these exclusives to play with Xbox Game Pass. And you know what that means? You won't have to spend a dime when they come out. I'm like, thank you, Xbox. Thank you, Microsoft. Why didn't you do this sooner instead of keeping us all worried in the dark for how the Xbox Series X is going to launch with essentially nothing? Oh, alright. Sorry, I had to get that little rant out of the way. So what does this mean overall? Well, from an Xbox consumer standpoint, this is 10 Christmases in one day. This is the holy grail of like exclusives just being exclusively tied to Xbox's next-gen platform and the PC on the same service that Microsoft has blown Sony out of the water for providing, which is the Xbox Game Pass. Sony's trying to compete with the service, but Microsoft already has a much higher reputation for providing backwards compatibility and the Game Pass service and the library it offers, which they've already announced will be completely available on Series X when it launches, for essentially no money except for the subscription price, which is extremely cheap. Well worth your money, by the way. Like, I've played Outer Worlds for free. I've played No Man's Sky recently. I wasn't going to pay $100 for a re-release of No Man's Sky on Xbox One, so I got it on Game Pass. It was free. It was free. I played Doom 2016 on Game Pass for free. Granted, Microsoft didn't own Bethesda back then, but you get my point. I played Ori and the Will of the Wisps on Xbox One for free. For free. I bought it on PC because I didn't really care. I'll buy it on PC. That's up to me. If I had Xbox Game Pass on PC, I could have, well, granted, I didn't have the Game Pass back then, for PC anyway, but same deal, I would have gotten it for free on PC. I'm still blown away by how much the Game Pass offers consumers, how consumer-friendly Microsoft has been. They're not perfect, and they've done some really shitty things in the past, but I'm still waiting for the catch, because I'm still not entirely relaxed about all this, but I think they may have just signed Sony's long-term death warrant. Sony has announced, the pre-orders for PlayStation have already sold out, right? And that's on the basis that Sony has a console that looks good, it's had good gameplay demos for every exclusive Sony has to offer that's coming out, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, There's a couple others I can't remember because I haven't really been keeping up with PlayStation. Again, I'm not really a PlayStation guy. But Spider-Man will be there on release. We know that. What we also know, and this is where Xbox has Sony beat, is that, for example, Spider-Man PS4 or Marvel Spider-Man PS4 by Insomniac Games has been confirmed by Insomniac to be an entirely new purchase as a PS5 remaster, and none of the save slots will be transferred over. Now that's just Spider-Man PS4, one of Sony's leading exclusive titles on that platform. I haven't heard enough about the other exclusives like God of War and Ghost of Tsushima and how all those remasters for the PS5 will be handled. If Insomniac's announcement for how Marvel's Spider-Man PS4 will be handled as a remaster for the next-gen platform on PS5, then that is not a good sign. I feel like Sony has gotten too comfortable being the leading distributor for console games and exclusives that they feel like they can get away with this. And this announcement from Microsoft came 2 days after Insomniac announced that Marvel Spider-Man on PS4 will be an entirely new purchase on PS5. This came 2 days before, and now today Microsoft announces, hey, you don't need those exclusives, you can come and buy all the Bethesda titles on our platforms. Which, again, Nintendo will eventually receive, no doubt. And it'll all be on Game Pass, which means you won't have to pay for shit beyond the Game Pass fee. This is like night and day. You know, back in 2013, Microsoft essentially sold more PS4s than Sony ever would have by their shitty business practices. Sony being the arrogant anti-consumer morons that they're being, because of possessing a commanding lead over Microsoft for so long, you're saying, yeah, no, you're still gonna have to pay for those exclusives because we know you will, because we got them, baby, and you're gonna have to come and pay out the wazoo to get them again, because we can afford it. Well, I wonder if they're rethinking that strategy now. Look, my heart kind of bleeds for the Sony crowd because of this announcement. I won't lie. Again, it doesn't really matter playing it on Xbox Series X or not. I can play them on PC if I want. I want to get a Series X because I like console gaming too. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's up to me. There are going to be plenty, like I follow a few PS4 gamers who are also massive Bethesda fans. Plenty of reactioners, streamers. They play on PS4 and they love Bethesda titles. They are now going to have to either play on PC or get a Series X to play those same titles in the next gen and later installments. There are plenty of people who do not want to play on the PC, despite its advantages, which I'm fully aware of and I'm not discrediting. Like, I play on the PC. There are plenty of people who just don't want to, who would rather get a console because it's simpler and because it's the platform they're used to and they just want to use that. And there's plenty of those people out there who will very likely pay the very affordable price of $299 for the Xbox Series S, which is the soft copy release of games, the console which deals exclusively in digital downloads, or if you're like me who wants the real Series X, because you're more into physical copies and, you know, building a collection, and you're just that type of gamer. It's that simple. It comes down to preference. There are plenty of those people who are going to go that direction because they love Bethesda titles instead of the PC direction. So I'm thinking long term, this means, is this gamer friendly? Universally, no. It is certainly gamer friendly for the Microsoft crowd. Is it consumer friendly? Again, not universally, but Microsoft as a consumer friendly entity as of 2020, this is fantastic news for the crowd that is in possession and is looking to purchase an Xbox Series X and has already got the Xbox Game Pass on PC and is a Microsoft consumer. This is very consumer friendly. This is going to piss off a lot of people. And again, my heart bleeds for them. And I can rub it in saying, well, now you guys don't get to play my exclusives, blah, blah, blah. I don't want Sony to die. Competition inspires quality. And if Sony remains an actual competitor in Microsoft, we can expect better from Microsoft. This purchase is huge. Microsoft bought Zenimax for $7.5 billion. $7.5 billion for Zenimax and all of its assets. Bethesda and all of Bethesda's titles. Let me put this into perspective for you. Disney buys Lucasfilm for $4.4 billion. They bought Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and all its assets, including LucasArts and the game manufacturers, Industrial Light and Magic, all them, for $4.4 billion. Now, granted, George Lucas gave it to Disney for a steal price. Disney should be thanking their lucky stars they got Star Wars for that cheap. But $4.4 billion for Star Wars, that's a lot of money still. The UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, was sold for $4.2 billion. And that was easily the biggest business purchase and merger in 2016. Easily. Possibly the biggest business transaction since the Disney Lucasfilm acquisition, right? The Ultimate Fighting Championship was sold for $4.2 billion, right? As big as that was, that's just over half, proportionally, just over half, the Zenimax purchase for $7.5 billion. And with it, Xbox essentially bought up a large proportion of the gaming industry that they now own or are exclusive to. Now, what does this mean for Bethesda? Well, in recent years, Bethesda hasn't exactly kept the ball alive. They've churned out several disappointments. Fallout 4 was apparently disappointing. The Elder Scrolls Online kind of sucked. Fallout 76 was an utter train wreck. Elder Scrolls 6 has only been announced, and that's about it. We know it's coming, as is Starfield. And the only thing they've really announced besides that is like their shitty mobile games. With the exception, of course, of Doom Eternal and Doom 2016. Doom has definitely been Bethesda's bright spot over the past 5 years. Undoubtedly. Now, I don't know all the details behind Bethesda's transgressions, but I do know the gameplay engine they've used for both Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Skyrim, and the Elder Scrolls Online is incredibly dated, and fans have been pleading for Bethesda to make a new gameplay engine and use that to bring the graphics and gameplay of those games and future titles into the modern gaming era. Because it's dated as hell. Much as I love Skyrim, it is dated as hell. I played it recently. I'm not the biggest Fallout fan, but from what I played, I wasn't really impressed with Fallout 4, and I haven't played 76, thank God. Elder Scrolls Online, again, very dated. Zenimax, the parent company of Bethesda, hasn't been running the show very well. I mean, granted, Todd Howard's a lying snake, but Zenimax is ultimately their publisher and parent company that helps fund their projects. So with Microsoft at the helm, will that change? Will there be a new gameplay engine? Will there be better management going forward? Will there be more consumer-friendly practices instead of this microtransaction bullshit? Who knows? Microsoft aren't saints, but the direction they've been going in inspires me to think optimistic. However, they now own, as I said before, a large chunk of the mainstream gaming corporations and developers. And from what we've seen from Disney, having almost a complete monopoly on the film industry, that doesn't inspire them to do better, which is, again, why I don't want Sony to die. I don't want Sony to underperform necessarily. It's good to see Microsoft back in the race. Like I said, I'm more of a Microsoft consumer, but I want better. Every consumer wants better. Competition inspires better from all parties. Microsoft having a monopoly on the gaming industry, I mean, it can be good. I don't think it will be. I think Microsoft will do a better job with Bethesda titles than ZeniMax has been doing. But long term, what does this mean? Well, long term, if it keeps going this way, without any competition from Sony in the long run, and if Microsoft buys up more studios, who knows, they could buy EA next. Imagine if Microsoft actually bought EA. If Microsoft has no competition, aside from Nintendo, this could inspire Microsoft to get very greedy again, fall back into anti-consumer practices, predatory practices. This could inspire apathy, and little incentive for companies to do better. Who knows? But the point is, competition inspires quality. Competition inspires developers and publishers to do better. Monopolies do not. It can be good, but I don't think it will be. And, again, long term, I think this is going to blow Sony out of the water. But this is also going to cause a hell of a lot of Xbox purchases on the Series X. Sony's direction with their services doesn't appear to be going in the same consumer-friendly direction that Microsoft is going, which isn't going to inspire customer loyalty or enthusiasm. And yeah, Sony still have their exclusives, and people are still going to buy their product, but this is a massive, massive deal. I'm excited as an Xbox Microsoft consumer. I'm excited as a PC player. I'm excited for the Nintendo players. I'll admit, I am a little bit excited that I get to kind of brag about playing these exclusives in the future on my Xbox and on my PC, and especially on the Game Pass, which again is extremely consumer friendly, assuming Microsoft don't change anything. I'm excited as an Xbox consumer. I'm excited as a gamer, but I am wary of the long-term consequences of this. The UFC has gone along quite swimmingly. Disney, on the other hand, has run just about everything it's acquired into the ground. So it can go one of two ways. What does this mean for Sony? How will this impact PS5 sales long-term? How many people is this going to bring over from PS5? Are people going to buy a PS5 or a Series X or both? How many players is this going to drive to PC? Instead of getting a Series X, they could get a PC or acquire it on the PC they already have, not have to buy a new console. What I'm trying to say is this is a massive shakeup, and it's going to grab just about everyone's attention, and Microsoft have essentially catapulted themselves back in the race for console supremacy. Again, I'm not a big fan of the console wars, despite the fact that I find it very entertaining, and I feel like I'm going in circles here again, but I hope long term this doesn't turn the gaming industry into Microsoft's monopoly, with the exception of Nintendo, which I don't really see as Microsoft's competitor anyway. And while I'm happy as a Microsoft consumer, primarily anyway, and despite the fact that I want to brag, I can't help but feel kind of bad for the PS5 crowd and Sony's audience, not just because we get to play these exclusives now, but also the direction Sony is going with their anti-consumer practices. I have no doubt they'll eventually turn the ship around, as Microsoft had to do long and gruelingly over the years to amend their reputation after the 2013 blunder, but this is huge. And with all of these companies under Microsoft's helm now, what does that mean? Are we going to get gaming crossovers? Perhaps. Like, I ran wild with fan fictions of my own in my head. Everyone's saying Doom Guy and Master Chief are going to cross over. Imagine having a Master Chief skin on Doom Guy in the next Doom installment. Imagine having a Doom Guy skin in Halo Infinite. Imagine Microsoft makes a game that's similar to Super Smash Bros., but you have Doom Guy, Skyrim Guy, Ori, Marcus Phoenix, Master Chief, and a whole bunch of other Microsoft native characters that can make up its own cross-brand franchise, like Nintendo's. How they do that, I have no idea, but the possibilities, and the possibilities for studios to work together. Hell, you could see Bethesda working with Obsidian on a new Fallout game. Who knows? Because it was originally Obsidian's, they sold to Bethesda, and now Obsidian has the Outer Worlds, which I've enjoyed immensely. Who knows what the next decade is going to hold for gaming, but this is insane. And I can't wait to see what comes of this, and I hope it's going to be good, and I hope Sony manages to answer back and keep the competition alive, because ultimately, again, for the last time, competition inspires quality. So that's my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts on this massive news in the comments below. Let me know what you think, if this is good or bad. Let me know what your fan fictions are for the future. I can't wait to read them all, if I can. I want to give a special thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for all of your contributions and support for the channel. I very much appreciate it. As you can no doubt tell, this has been a very off-the-cuff video. My videos are usually scripted, but I hope you found it enjoyable nonetheless. Also, I have a Discord server. Be sure to check that out if you're looking to chat and make new friends. There's a whole bunch of chat rooms on there, including a gaming channel as well, for which you can discuss this news with many of other people I know would be interested in this. Hell, I'm going to be spending some time in there because I have a lot to talk about. And I know you guys got a lot to say as well, so check it out. Hope to see you on the Discord server. Thanks very much for your time. As always, you are a legend for staying to the end of the video, and I'll see you next time.